When was the last time you felt jealous about someone or something? I noticed I don't subject myself to jealousy as much now. Of course, jealousy is a very human emotion, so it's very unrealistic to never feel envious or jealous. But there are certain things we can do to make sure we don't let this emotion take over our lives. The other day, my little boy came home from a birthday party and he asked if he could buy a few toys that he wasn't really that interested in before the party. So I sat him down and we had a conversation about it. I said to him, well, you have your pocket money, so it's up to you how you want to spend that money. But is it possible that you're feeling a bit jealous because you saw your friend receiving all these birthday presents? After pausing for a few seconds, he agreed that he was feeling a bit left out and jealous. Deep down, he thought buying something for himself would make him feel better. I completely understand that sentiment. In fact, jealousy used to dictate how I shopped and how I spent my hard-earned money. So I told my little boy what he was feeling is completely normal and it must be hard to have to process such confusing emotion at such a young age. But I made it very clear to him that I feel the same sometimes. So does Daddy and so does everyone else. But just like any other human emotion, eventually it should pass. But until then, it is up to us to decide how we should respond to it. For me, acknowledging the feeling of jealousy is the first step of dealing with this emotion. If you feel jealous or envious, it doesn't make you a bad person. It just makes you a human. Asking someone to stop feeling jealous is like asking someone to never feel hungry. I think it really helps to have more awareness about why you feel this way and what makes you feel this way. We all have something that triggers that feeling of envy or jealousy, especially with social media. It's so easy to look at someone else's seemingly perfect life and feel like we are inadequate. For me, the trigger was the idea of owning a lot of luxury handbags and shiny jewelry. I never care about expensive holidays or cars, but looking at those pictures of someone owning a massive collection of designer handbags used to trigger a feeling of envy and a sense of lacking. For others, the triggers might be career achievements, family background, people skills, professional status, and the list goes on. But I think physical possession is a very common trigger for many people because it's so visual and tangible. When we look at an Instagram picture, for example, it's always easier to spot the Chanel handbag instead of looking beyond the surface and looking at things like personality and life experience of the person who is carrying this bag. Having a clear understanding about my own trigger has made such a difference because I realized I have the power to remove myself from situations that make me feel jealous. In my case, it means reducing the time I spend on Instagram, being intentional with what I watch on YouTube, and finding a hobby just so I don't have to rely on window shopping whenever I feel unhappy, bored, or sluggish. In my experience, how we handle the trigger can create ripple effect. Consider the two very different scenarios. In the first one, I'm having a bad day, so I decide to scroll on Instagram and I immediately feel jealous. I'm also certain that the reason for my unhappiness is because I don't treat myself enough. I then drop by Chanel to buy a handbag. The instant gratification reinforces the idea that this is exactly what I need to do whenever I have a bad day. 5 years down the line, I still feel like I'm not treating myself enough because someone else always seems to have more than I do. My bank account isn't looking very promising, but what's the point of saving money if I'm not happy? So let's keep going. Versus scenario 2, I'm having a bad day. But I know scrolling on Instagram would only make me feel worse, so I put my phone away. I then have a shower, make myself a cup of tea, light a candle, and finally read that book that's been recommended by some of the most amazing people on the planet. The book is really inspiring. A few pages in, I feel so much better. Despite having a less than perfect day, I feel lucky to be alive, and I'm grateful for all the blessings in my life. That encourages me to explore more books. Few months later, I find myself checking on Instagram a lot less, not because I feel like I have to, but because Instagram no longer feels that appealing. Aristotle said, "You are what you repeatedly do." So in time, it is very possible that you don't even have to actively avoid those triggers anymore. They are simply no longer a part of your everyday routine. In our daily life, however, it's impossible to stay clear entirely from our triggers. After all, not many of us live in complete isolation. Now, one thing that has really helped me is to try to see beyond the triggers. In most cases, nice things don't grow on trees, and achievements don't come free. Beyond the shiny surface of nice cars and expensive things, I now prefer to look at the hard work that goes behind it. If you look at the most affluent people like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, they certainly have a lot of money and nice things, enough for many of us to feel jealous about. If you've read their books, however, they've had a lot of challenges along the way. Let's just say it's not a path that many of us are ready to commit to. I find that when I focus on what goes behind the scene, I feel inspired rather than jealous. Of course, I still come across situations where I feel triggered, but now I try to slow down and look at things from the other side. Instead of saying, "I wish I had the same achievements," I now ask myself, how did she do it? What can I learn from her? And how can I do better? By shifting the way we look at things, I believe it's possible to take a negative emotion like jealousy and turn it into a more positive energy that's conducive and healthy for us. I don't think that's toxic positivity. It's more about accepting the reality that there's usually a lot more than what our eyes can see. A 10-minute flawless performance on the stage is usually only perfect after years of practice and a lot of sweat and tears. A successful business wouldn't be possible without a lot of planning, struggles, and sacrifice. And a happy marriage requires us to be a good listener and a devoted supporter day in, day out for years. I also think it's really important that whenever we feel jealous, to slow down and ask ourselves, what are we actually envious about? Sometimes you might look at someone who seems to have everything and they own the most amazing luxury collection. You then feel like you should also buy a certain designer handbag because by having something in common, you feel closer and more relatable to that blogger whom you really admire. But is it possible that you're not feeling jealous about the shiny things? Perhaps what appeals to you more is the financial freedom that the blogger seems to have. Because if that's the case, buying that expensive handbag is technically irrelevant. If anything, it might pull you further away from what actually matters to you the most. For me, it's taken a lot of journaling and reflections to identify what I value the most. But once I have a very clear picture, I feel grounded and solid in myself. So if someone managed to buy the latest luxury handbag, it doesn't bother me anymore because that's trivial in the grand scheme of things. And if someone wins the jackpot, that's amazing, but it doesn't mean I have to enjoy my own life less. I do want to say, while I've cut down on using social media, I do think it is a very good resource as long as we use it intentionally. At the moment, I'm more inclined to watching certain content because I now have a very clear idea about what makes me feel good, what inspires my creativity, and what relaxes me. You can pretty much find anything on YouTube nowadays, so it's quite easy to find a tribe or a community that makes you feel supported and belong. Now, if everything fails, you can keep it simple and focus on gratitude. There's a reason why everyone has a gratitude journal. I have one myself. It doesn't take all my problems away, but you know what? Taking the time to count our blessings is never a cliche. In the comment section, please let me know what are your jealousy triggers. When was the last time you felt jealous? And how do you deal with this emotion? Thank you for being here. Take care and I will see you soon.